Hello everyone, Jewel here. After putting some new JRPG games list, I think it's the right time to continue the PC turn-based RPG games list for 2022. If you haven't watched the part 1, I suggest to watch it first, so you're not confused why some games are not featured in this video. Alright then, let's get started. As the name implies, King Arthur Knight's Tale revolves around the infamous Arthurian mythology. What makes it special, this time they're adding some twists and dark fantasy elements into it, and for some reason, it kinda works. It's not all about lore and stories though. The gameplay is surprisingly have a pretty solid foundation, despite not being innovative whatsoever. It has pretty low RNG mechanics, but they make up for it with the intricate enemy level design. It almost feels like you're trying to solve a puzzle sometimes rather than fighting a dynamic battle. Some people might not like it, but if you want some fresh tactical RPG, I suggest to give it a try. If you love the aesthetics and gameplay from the old classic JRPG, Octopath Traveler is definitely a game that's worth your time. Implementing the 2D HD graphics art style into the game, it helps the game to feel like a classic but in a modern form. The story is light but not underwhelming. It is definitely not over the top kind of story with some adventurer trying to kill a god, but I would say the emotional moments still perfectly designed and paced, especially with each background story of the characters. To make it even better, the soundtrack in this game is one of the best I've ever experienced. While most Warhammer 40k games put you in the Space Marine perspective, this game tried to bring a new approach by giving us control upon adaptive Mechanicus forces to fight those filthy Necrons. It also shares a few similarities with XCOM. However, it has a lot of unique mechanics that make it very much its own game. Each unit has its own turn that you can see on the timeline, and you are allowed to use multiple actions at once, including multiple shots, melee attack, healing, etc., as long as you have the CP for it. Not only that, the game's characters are all very unique and have distinct personalities. The conflicts are also surprisingly well written. If you love turn-based RPG and Warhammer 40k at the same time, then make sure to try this game. I know it's probably a little bit too late to recommend playing this game, but chances are some of you probably haven't played or even heard of this game, especially because of newer games like Super Robot Wars 30. The thing is, I always love the animation and art style better in this game, rather than the newest Super Robot Wars. Although I would say the difficulty and tactical depth of both games are a bit similar, but it's still enjoyable, especially with many Gundam that you can choose over, each with their different skills and traits. The RPG aspect of this game also fair and well balanced, which perfect for beginners and hardcore fans alike. Tabletop war games and RPGs are just a perfect combination, and BattleTech is just one of the best examples. Rich narrative, well-designed fictional worlds, supported with a superb tactical RPG mechanic. Being able to modify your mechs is nice and interesting. There is a great deal of flexibility in mech customization, but it doesn't mean you can just build whatever. These restrictions work very well in preserving each mech's battlefield role. And while the turn-based mechanic wasn't the most innovative, but it perfectly designed and has so much tactical depth, with a lot of intricacies giving significant value to the gameplay, like squad combination, combat positioning, and even environment condition. If you are used to play Yakuza series with their action RPG, Well, this one might confuse you a little bit, cause Yakuza Like a Dragon for some reason decided to change its primary mechanic into turn-based RPG. It isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially for people that love slower and methodical pace. Playing Yakuza Like a Dragon sometimes feels like playing Persona with the skin of Yakuza. You walk around doing some random shit in the district of Japan, and there's a lot of social interaction going on. Even after spending 50 hours with Yakuza Like a Dragon to complete its main story and experience a decent chunk of optional content, somehow you still find new things to experience. Cool. Imagine playing Pokemon but with Monster Hunter reference. As of today, there are 87 collectible monsters that you can add into your squad. The core gameplay is like other monster taming RPG games. You explore the world, fight some monsters, and catch some. Combat is based on a rock paper scissors system, and each monster is given a default category. You also participate as a rider, using traditional hunter weapons to help fight against enemies. Large monsters have targetable body parts with varying resistance to your weapons. Breaking these parts give you bonus rewards and may affect the monster's combat potential. Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden is a real gem of tactical RPG. People try to compare it with the likes of XCOM, and I can't blame them. In fact, there are some elements that are arguably better than XCOM, such as the ability to pick up enemy patrols before engaging the big fight. This stealth kills doesn't alert the remaining forces, which make things convenient since we always outnumber most of the time. And while XCOM often feels too arcadey sometimes because of the lack of narrative and memorable characters, Mutant Year Zero somehow managed to deliver this aspect. With its interesting world and characters, it is easier for people that love the genre to also love this game. Chrono series is a classic JRPG that is almost universally held up as an exemplar of the best of the genre, and playing it all these years later proves that to be true. The graphics may be old-fashioned, but the world design, story, and the mechanics push you forward and rewards you with a fun and interesting gameplay, not to mention the legendary soundtrack these two games have. I know some people might have already played this game, but for those who new to the series, I will highly recommend to play both games, especially since the PC version has better quality of life and enhanced resolution. The price might be a little bit expensive for an old game, so better buy it on sale. Gears Tactics makes a bold decision by turning away from the main genre that the Gears of War series is well known for, but somehow it still captures the vital essence that fans have come to love. All the XCOM-inspired mechanics are there: action points to move or attack, cover mechanic, and even Overwatch positioning. On paper, your squad are always outnumbered and outgunned. Though the situation never ends up in your favor, there's almost always a solution to the threat you're facing. Whether you choose to dig in and brace from a defensive position or become extremely aggressive. Battle Brothers is the proof that good game doesn't always equal good graphics. At a glance, you will think that this game is just another half-ass indie game with no depth whatsoever, but who would have guessed? Under its simplistic nature lies one of the most brutal tactical RPG that you could ask for. Trust me, you'll get used to watch your entire party wiped out a lot. But if you're willing to learn from your mistakes, you're going to become significantly better at the games, and the game rewards you for that. The best part of Battle Brothers is that the permadeath actually not tedious at all. Unlike in XCOM, where replacing a character is basically just grinding them up all over again, in Battle Brothers, every character is randomly generated, which makes replacing companion feels fresh and satisfying. After the successful run with the first Darkest Dungeon, Red Hook Studios decided to continue their supremacy on roguelike genre with the second entry of the series. Granted, the game's still on early access, so it's not that surprising to see some balancing issues and annoyances along the way, but so far, the core gameplay looks really promising. Your fighters can now form bonds. Positive or negative relationship will give impact on your squad performance, even though I would say the relationship system still needs some tuning, cause it's kinda hard to maintain a positive relationship. The great thing about the first Darkest Dungeon is that it was a roguelike that was great for a run or two before you put it down. Unfortunately, each run can go on for hours in the sequel, which means players will have to fully commit it to their time or not at all. Hopefully, they will address that in the near future. The fact remains that XCOM Enemy Unknown is an exemplary turn-based strategy game. I know that XCOM 2 is probably better in all of their aspects, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just underestimate what XCOM Enemy Unknown got to offer. While lacking in a few aspects such as a deeper plot and leave some optimization work to be desired, Enemy Unknown still humor your tactical intelligence at terminating aliens. And the best part, this game actually more balanced in terms of overall level design, which makes combat more intense and enjoyable. The original Pillars of Eternity is a fast, complex, and had so much depth on its RPG game design. And to think that Obsidian Entertainment managed to make a larger and denser sequel is just amazing. Sure, the game is not for everyone. Those with a genuinely short attention span may struggle, since there are long conversation trees, a deep roster of characters with ever-changing relationships, and a pace that's a lot slower if you're used to action games. But if you like the idea of diving into a big and life-consuming RPG that requires patience, dedication, and commitment, then Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire could well be the masterpiece you've been searching for. And to make it even better, the new patch granted us with the turn-based mode, which surely pleased those who prefer the tactical and methodical approach. We already know that Divinity Original Sin 2 is a masterpiece. Not only as an RPG, but even as one of the best games ever released. But how about the first game? Turns out the first Divinity Original Sin is nearly as fantastic as the second entries. Sure, it has weaker stories and world design, but it's not half bad. In fact, I find that the character progression are more enjoyable. The characters are more noticeably getting stronger than in 2. Possibly because it has more difficulty spike rather than Divinity Original Sin 2. Overall, despite the technical limitations, still this is an amazing game for those seeking a hardcore old-school RPG. Alright boys, I think that's it for today. I know that there are still other turn-based RPG that I haven't mentioned yet, so how about sharing your best turn-based RPG games that probably deserve a spot in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss another great list. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Peace.